Having lived with Swami, having been fortunate to live with Swami for the last so many years, in fact, though I can say I am from Mumbai, I've lived a greater part of my life in Vrindavan and Prashantnilayam than in Mumbai. I've lived more than 2/3 of my life there and less than 1/3 of my life in Mumbai. But having lived there all these years, there's one realization that finally sinks in, that life with Swami is just a journey. A journey. As Swami himself says, life is a journey from I to we and we to he. So he takes us all on this journey. And what he's trying to do in this journey is probably lift us all up a few steps. Lift our consciousness from where it is to maybe slightly higher. We're all at different stages in this journey. And what he's tried to do is to push us a few steps ahead. It's up to us to capitalize on that lead and move on, or to stay where we are and allow the rest of humanity to catch up with us. The journey always begins very well. The journey begins with God showering all His love on you, God making you the center of existence as if only you mattered for Him, which is how life began for me when I went as a student. Received lots of attention, received lots of love. But soon I was to realize that this attention, this love, is not because I was something special. This attention, this love was only because I was nothing special. He wanted to make me something special. So this went on for some time. This was a phase in life when God was a friend. Let me narrate one such instance to you. Having gone from Mumbai, especially in those days, 35, 40 years ago, Parthi and Vrindavan was down south. We only knew, the only thing we in Mumbai knew about the south was the wonderful idlis and dosas that we would eat in a Udupi restaurant. I really didn't know, though I must have studied in school, that there were 4 states, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Andhra, Kerala, with 4 distinct languages. So I really couldn't make out. I couldn't make out what was Kannada, what was Telugu, what was Tamil, what was Malayalam. So much so that my friends would make fun of me. One of them would start speaking in Tamil. The other one would continue in Telugu. The third one would continue in Kannada and ask me to guess which language they are speaking in. And my state was such that if they had spoken Tamil, Telugu and Kannada, my guess would be this is Malayalam. That was what I knew. And soon it was obvious to Swami, I shouldn't use the word obvious, Swami knew that I didn't know any of these languages. So he would speak to me in his sweet, beautiful Hindi. And I would answer back in a mix of Hindi and English. So in that state, one day we found ourselves present in one room in Vrindavan, in Swami's old bungalow in Vrindavan. That room was nicknamed by the students as a safe room. It was called a safe room not because there was anything safe about it. Life around Swami is always safe. And in another sense, I'll come to it a little later, life around Swami is never safe. But this room had a big, huge safe. And we don't know. But people say that when Swami acquired that property in 1964 and started living there, the room was built around the safe which was already present there. So we were there in that room. There were probably 15, 20 of us. I was a student, a few students, a few senior students. Some of our teachers were also there. There was this venerable gentleman who was still there in Puttaparthi, Professor Nanjundaya, who happened to be my teacher in Vrindavan at that time. I'm told that he's come and spoken in Samarpan some months ago, or a couple of years ago. So he happened to be standing there. And Swami was conversing with various people. Most often in Telugu, I presumed. And occasionally with people like me in Hindi. Swami was on and off asking me some questions. Very, very normal questions. Swami's way is to make you feel that he's speaking to you. It's not the information that he wants. He doesn't need to know who you are or for what your name or which place you came from and so on. But those are his ways of making you feel special, making you feel recognized. See, here he was on and off asking me also some questions about myself, about from where I come, about my parents and so on. And this was going on. Swami was speaking with various others, including Professor Nanjundaya in Telugu. And then the questioning became a little more detailed. He asked me what I was studying. So I explained to him, I said, Swami, I'm studying commerce. So what subjects do you have? So I mentioned my subjects. Naturally, for a commerce student, one of the most common subjects, prominent subjects is accounting. So I said, Swami, accounts. And Professor Nanjundaya happened to be standing almost next to me, slightly maybe 3 feet, 4 feet away. So I said, Swami, accounts and so on. Who are your teachers? I later realized that actually Swami wanted me to mention Professor Nanjundaya, which I did. Because Swami said, who are your teachers? And he happened to be the only one who was actually standing in that room. So I mentioned 2, 3 names. I said, Swami, Professor Nanjundaya also. What does he teach you? Now this was not a continuous conversation. This was an on and off conversation. I'm just trying to shorten it by telling you the whole story. So he would say something to me, then say something to someone else, then say something to Professor Nanjundaya, and then he would come back to me. So, who are your teachers? Professor Nanjundaya. So what does he teach you? He teaches me accounts. Okay. And then which subject do you like? Now accounts was a subject which has been my favorite since I took commerce in college. And so I said, Swami, accounts is the subject which I love. He asked Professor Nanjundaya whether I'm a student. Yes, Swami, he is my student. Now, I was a student who loved accounts and therefore was always good at accounts. Typically, if you learn to like something, you learn to love something, you're likely to be good at it. And I was good at accounts. So I was very enthusiastic about it. And luckily for me, I was happy because soon the conversation turned to marks. So I was very happy. He said, you like accounts? You said you like accounts. Yes, Swami, I like accounts. How many marks did you get? That was the question which I was very happy to hear, because just a week before that we had a test. And in that test, that was a class test, that was a 20-mark test, and I happened to get 20 out of 20. So you feel very happy when somebody like Swami asks you how many marks you got, and very enthusiastically beaming, I said, Swami, I got 20 out of 20. No enthusiasm. I'm very happy I got 20 out of 20. Swami looked at Professor Nanjundaya and said, what do you have to say? Silence. Then Swami said, you got 20 out of 20, but you're good in accounts? I said, yes, Swami, I'm good in accounts. Previous test, how much you got? I said, Swami, last month also we had a test, I got 20 out of 20. Before that also, now here I was exceeding myself. So I said, Swami, before that also, when we had the midterm test, I got 50 out of 50. I was not asked for that information, but then such information you always like to volunteer. So I said, Swami, we had midterm test, 3 months back or 4 months back, there also I got 50 out of 50. So Swami turns to Professor Nanjundaya and asks him, is it? He says he got 20 out of 20, 50 out of 50, is it? Swami, actually I don't remember. Catch a teacher anywhere not remembering a student who's got 20 out of 20, 50 out of 50, not in one test but consistently. I used to pride myself, if I've got 49 out of 50, something is wrong with the question paper. So, here was this gentleman saying, Swami, I don't remember. I was wondering why he's saying like that. I was a little annoyed also, because I'm sure there's someone here who's either been a teacher or who's had somebody in, or who, all of us have been students, and we all know that a teacher typically, invariably has a soft corner for a student who's good in studies, whatever else may be the story. So here I was very good in this particular subject, always getting top marks in that subject. And here was a teacher who I knew had a soft corner for me. We had very good relations, and here he was saying, I don't remember. Is it? He says he doesn't remember. What can I say? Now it was my turn to keep quiet. I was boasting too much, so now it was my turn to keep quiet. Then he says, you like accounts, right? Which other subjects you like? So then I mentioned something. But somehow the conversation came back to accounts. So again Swami said, you like accounts, but you are good at accounts? So here I said, of course Swami, that's why I'm getting 20 out of 20, 50 out of 50. So Swami again goes back to Professor Nanjundaya and says, he says he's a good student. No Swami. You normally never tell in front of Swami, even if today, I've been teaching for so many years, if the parent of a student came and asked me how his son was studying, I would not start by saying he's a bad student. Even if he's a bad student, I'd probably start by saying he needs to put in more effort, he can get better marks, he's not realizing his potential. I mean, you would say that to a parent. Here is somebody who's telling Swami, no, Swami is a bad student. So I was going red, blue, green, and it probably showed on my face. And I was so annoyed that Swami again turns to me and says, he's saying he's a bad student, with a little bit of vigor in my voice and anger and annoyance in my voice. I said, Swami, I don't know why he's saying that. I had the temerity to say that. I said, Swami, I don't know why he's saying that. Swami continued the conversation. Actually, I am trying to narrate the story in a condensed form. The conversation continued. Finally, Swami turned and said, look, see, if he's saying that you're not a good student, you're a bad student, there must be something wrong, right? Now I was totally, not merely flustered. I began by being flustered, but I was angry. So I said, I don't know, Swami. Swami should ask him. So Swami decided, it's time to teach this guy a lesson. So Swami said, Nanjundaya, he's saying he's getting full marks and very good marks and he's very good at the subject. And you are saying Swami is a bad student. Yes, Swami, he's a bad student. I don't know how he's getting these marks. But he's getting these marks, right? So how is he getting these marks? Maybe Swami is copying. That was like the final straw. What do you have to say to that? He looked at me kind of, what do you have to say to that? I was a mixture of downright angry, upset, everything. I couldn't say anything. And I didn't know what to say. So I just kept silent, but my face was shaking. And then Swami turned to Professor Nanjundaya and said, Nanjundaya, you say he is copying, then what are you doing as a teacher? Saying that, he got up from his seat, and meanwhile, everybody in the room was smiling and giggling, and Swami was also giggling. So as he said this, Nanjundaya, if he is copying, what are you doing as a teacher? He said that and walked out of the room, and everybody in the room burst into laughter. Swami himself was laughing, and he walked out of the room. Since Swami walked out of the room, he walked out of the room from the main door. Everybody else trooped out of the room from the side door. I was left wondering what's happening. I had no clue what was happening. Everybody is laughing away. People are looking at me and laughing even more. So, I, of course, had realized that I had made a fool of myself. That is nothing new for me, but I was wondering what was exactly that had happened. Finally, so I kept asking some people, what happened? What happened? Why is everybody laughing? And nobody would reply. Everybody was running out because Swami had gone out, so everybody was running behind Swami. Finally, one person decided to take pity on me. And this was, one of my 4 friends. I told you of the practical joke that they would play on me. Or they would pull my leg by, one starting in Kannada, one starting in Tamil, the other one continuing in the 3rd language. And I would invariably, without fail, guess. If they had spoken 3 languages, I would guess the 4th. She says, remember the game that we play with you? I'll speak in Tamil, Harish will speak in Kannada, Shiva will speak in Telugu, and you will say Malayalam. Swami did exactly that with you today. What was happening was, Swami was carrying on this conversation, knowing fully well that I don't even know the language. I guess the language is Telugu because Swami is speaking it. But otherwise I can't recognize Telugu. So what Swami was doing is, he was asking me something. Meanwhile, he was carrying on a parallel conversation with Professor Nanjundaya and telling him, I am going to ask this, you answer like this. So I am going to ask, how is he getting, or he says he is good, you say he is a bad student. This whole conversation was going on, and there were many people in the room who knew Telugu, who were as fluent in Telugu. For them it was a mother tongue. And I was among the only people in the room who had no clue of what was happening. So this is Swami. I'm narrating this incident because this is Swami who's very much your friend. When among children, I am a child. So this is the Swami who begins life with you as your friend. He is not some imposing God. He is not somebody who puts himself in a pedestal, but comes down to you, comes down to your level, speaks with you, jokes with you, pulls your leg, scolds you also when required, teaches you lessons. To a student, he would teach lessons in a very, very simple and straightforward way.